Greetings one and all, I hope you're well. I have announced that this video is to be entitled The Great Confusion, or Browne on breathing again already. Over 10 years ago, I worked with Dinah Harris on the screen, and we worked on Svend Smith's rhythm accent method of abdominal breathing. I went to Dinah several times. I then booked an appointment with a consultation with Meribeth Bunch, latterly Meribeth Dayme, sadly now deceased. I've been reading her book. She's got several books, but one of them was called The Dynamics of the Singing Voice, number 6, and I've read it several times. It's quite anatomical, and I think she worked with dead bodies and so on. I'm not quite sure if she's a doctor or what she did, but anyway, quite a detailed book and goes into all sorts of details. You'll see some of them on the screen as well later. Then I went to visit Elizabeth McNaughton, kind of to get a second opinion or a different opinion, and at the end of all that I was quite satisfied that my understanding and that my practice was pretty good. So I went ahead and produced some videos, detailed videos on what this abdominal breathing is and how you might achieve it, and then some practice tracks to work it in so it becomes automatic, which is what you want. I also did some videos with a glamorous assistant called Anya Pierce, showing me working with her on trying to get this. It's not rocket science, in fact it's natural, but we seem to get in a bit of a tangle with it. Those practice tracks and the videos are still valid, but over the past years, 10 years you can imagine, I've had further insights, and so this video is just to not really update because it's the same, but to add some insights which I hope might help. And also because I've noticed there's a great confusion, and it's not necessary really. So I'm hoping this video will maybe eradicate it somewhat, at least. That, if you like, is a history to some extent from having visited those experts. I then applied what they had to say and have been working with it for many years. So that's where this comes from, if you want to know what my qualifications are. But I'm hoping to show you for yourself. And I'm not saying something is right or wrong, I'm just trying to show you what it is, because there seems to be a great confusion. Now, why do I say that? I'll tell you why. I'm lucky enough to work for the University of Cambridge and did a masterclass there. I was lucky enough to be invited to do a masterclass for NYJO, National Youth Jazz Orchestra. I've been working here at the Brit School, many thanks to the Brit School for the use of the facilities, since it opened for over 30 years. I also work at ELAM, East London Arts and Music, so loads of students, as you can imagine. This is what I've noticed. I would ask students about their singing exercises, what they do, what they understand about technique, so on and so forth, what they want to improve, usual things you might ask. And inevitably breathing comes up. And what I've noticed is, firstly, there might be an intellectual understanding, but it seems to be a bit vague. But that doesn't matter because we don't need it, do we? Really. The question is, are you doing it and is it useful? Secondly then, most of them, from their intellectual understanding, seem to think they're doing it. But I can tell as I'm speaking to them that they're not. So I ask them, yeah, you've been told this and you've been told that, and you go and you do your practicing for musical theatre or for jazz or whatever it is, and you stand there and do your breathing, you've got your hand on your stomach and all the rest of it. Are you doing it? And mostly they say, yes, but I can see they're not. If I push them a bit, some of them almost get a bit offended. They say, it's okay, I'm not doing this. When I ask you these questions, For what purpose? I'm doing this. Let's explore together, because if you're not, you may as well know. It might be a bit depressing for a second or two. Think, oh no, I've been doing all that and I'm not doing it. It might be the case, but you may as well know that and know where you are. And then we can talk about whether you need to or not. That's another issue I would like to cover. Patchy intellectual knowledge and scarcely able to demonstrate. Worse, excess and inappropriate movements. So, yes, you could perhaps ignore if people thought they were doing it and they weren't. You just think, well, does it really matter? But this is what goes on. I get lots of movements here and all sorts of stuff going on. Now, you can tell that me moving my stomach like this has got nothing to do with my breathing. It's jolting my body, so my breath is affected, but that's not what the breathing's about. So, and hands are on here and all this. So some of them I just say, take your hand off your stomach. Take your hand off your stomach, because whatever you're doing there has got nothing to do with your breathing. It's an extraneous movement, and you're better off without it. You've got enough on your plate without having some sort of a twitch going on. Do you get me? Do you get me? Sorry. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the bit I don't like. I don't like all this stuff going on and this concentration. And I'm thinking, I know what's going to happen when you walk on stage. When you walk on stage and you can't, what's the first line of my song? And then the bass player's playing a wrong note and something's a bit weird. Are you going to start thinking, hand here, breathe here? No. You're going to revert to what's habitual. So you may as well stop all this. Don't you agree? You're not doing anything. In fact, it's getting in the way, it's distracting, and you've got a twitch going on, which has got nothing, so if you haven't got enough to do already. That's the main, I was going to say irritation, but that's not right. Beef I have with it, and why I think, clear it up. If you're not doing it, you're not doing it. Do you want to do it? You don't want to do it, because you sing fine without it. So don't do it, and don't twitch. I think, just me. Next, what did off my chest? Trying to. Sometimes I like it. People are so nice. So you've got to stop looking at your singing teacher. I think, anyway, for me, if I was a singing teacher, you've got to stop looking at me like this. Whenever I ask you something, I want the truth of what you're experiencing, not, oh, this is supposed to be. So then you tell me this because you think that's what's supposed to be happening because you've learnt it up here. It's no use. I want you to do with intelligence and intellect, which I'll come on to later maybe. Sorry to point at you. To tell me the truth. Sometimes it's as if our students are trying to fool me. And some of them are very good at it. I have to look and perceive and look and perceive. I caught one. No, I don't mean it like that. Because I didn't know they're doing it. But it's good for me to catch it because I caught it and I showed her. She what? No. I said, there, did you? Oh, poor thing. But it's good because at least she knows now what she was actually doing. And then you can change it or not. Either you can change it or you can stop doing all the other stuff and just stick with what you're doing and think, I don't have to do that anymore. So it's almost as if they're trying to fool me with the best of intentions because they're thinking, oh, they're supposed to do that. So there I am. Look. But I'm thinking, but that's not connected to the air. It's not. Don't try to fool me. What's the point? We're trying to work together to show you something so that you can then decide. I'd like to add this to the video because I was teaching a student yesterday and we were using somebody's track, practice track, warm-up track. And the person said, breathe where you feel it in your abdomen, your shoulders and your chest shouldn't rise, you should stand well, all these sorts of things, which is great. But if you don't actually naturally do that, you can't just do it. So you'll be listening to a track, trying to obey what the person said, and it's just going to be tension and confusion because what you'd need to do is stop and figure out, actually, what is this? Breathing. What is this? My shoulders and my chest shouldn't rise. Because actually mine do. That's what I've seen. So it's just adding something to you. Sort it out first. It's good that that advice is there, but it's not going to happen just like that in my experience and experience with students as well. So you need to stop it and try and sort that out. Or I say, if you're going to use it as a warm-up track and you're not going to sort it out right then just do your thing and warm yourself up the way you're going to sing later, which will be up here if that's what you're doing. So just do it, ignore the person, say that's good advice, but that's not what I do right now. So let me use your track and warm myself up, kind of ignoring that, and maybe some other time I'll slow down and see if I can establish that. Hope that makes sense. What I like about this stuff is that in this philosophy, it requires instinctual intelligence. Intellect, not so much. I'm going to liken the intellect to a kind of a computer. So you get the information, you figure out, so you can understand it all. Great. But what about this? This, I'm going to say, is instinctual intelligence. So you need to be still, quiet, you need to notice, you need to be truthful. It's no good if there's no truth in there. Intellect can be swayed, as we've all realised, I think, over the past few years. But intelligence, not so. Intellect has its place, but for me it's a subset of instinctual intelligence. And I'm thinking, your body is a gracious display of magnificent intelligence. How did you go from this big to this big? The number of functions that are going on all the time just to keep me here. How do we manage to stand up on 2 feet without falling over? Things are being repaired. Everything is being replaced. They used to say every 7 years. Can you believe they say every year now? Every cell, everything in your body is being replaced, and yet you don't fall apart. Can you imagine that? And there's no moaning. I know some of us have got aches and pains, and I know all that. But generally speaking, we don't fall apart, and there's no aches and pains as it goes on. It just quietly goes about its intelligent business, which is so beyond our own intellect that nobody understands it. You can only marvel. So I would say, cultivate that instinctual intelligence and know that it's part of you. Who are you then if you have this? Less than this? So when it comes to these things, the intellect is a useful doorway maybe, but why such a big deal? I agree. You're alive. Breathing must be working. Loads of people have never had any breathing training or anything and seem perfectly fine. Yes? You can see them. Well, here I say, it seems to me the nearer you get to opera, the more it matters. I have for some time been thinking a lot of the exercises we do, all the brrr, humming, all the singing exercises, where do they come from? Well, if you're a pop singer, jazz singer, well, if you wanted singing lessons, you went to a singing teacher. Back in the day, the singing teacher you would go to would be a traditional singing teacher. The exercises, I think they're traditional exercises. There are a few different ones now that are more appropriate to pop, but basically people went to, you want a singing teacher, you ended up with a classical one. And an extreme version of classical, perhaps a gymnastic version, extreme sport, is opera. So you've got to ask yourself, do you need it? Are there any benefits? Are there any pitfalls? We'll look at that. No big deal if you're happy to wheeze your way through a song, seems to me. If you're, oh, you just want to sing like this, just want to sing like this, that's it, I just don't want to sing like this, I just don't want to sing like this, yeah. Forget it. In terms of, we could do breathing exercise if you want, but I'm thinking, well, maybe a bit, but in any particular place, no, just do what you do. You've got a microphone, you're recording, whatever, do what you do. I don't think you need it. Examples of singers who don't do it. I told you about one who's got her masterclass. She goes on about it. I look at her on YouTube, doesn't do it. I looked at, I was with a student in this very room, looking at a musical theatre piece, and she's getting ready for the big note at the end, and the student was trying to get it. So I said, let's see if we can glean anything from the way this person's doing it. It's a good singer. And this big note coming up at the end. And as we looked, I thought, oh. So I said to the student, I said, Daisy, what do you notice? Daisy said, I don't know. So I pointed, I said, what do you notice, Daisy? She said, oh, her chest. Yeah. She went to get the big note. Guess what? So, I watched some a group in New York, doing something. I'm going to turn away from the mic so it doesn't overdo it. They're doing that. Poof, poof, poof. What am I going to do? I'm going to go up to them and say, excuse me, I know you've been doing that for thousands of years, but let me tell you, you're doing it all wrong. You want to be down here? maybe it wouldn't matter too much if they lost their voice. Maybe if we're back in the bush doing our thing, it wouldn't matter. Maybe it's a bit different when you've got an opera that's extreme and 3 hours long, and then you're going to be doing it the next night and the next night. Maybe if you're on a world tour, you're a pop artist, and you've got a long show and you're dancing and you're this and that, you're a little bit under the weather and you're tired and all this, and then you've got to do it the next night, and then you've got to do it the next night, and then you've got to do it the next night. Maybe there's something there. We're going to look at that. We'll get there eventually, don't you worry. I'm going to put chapters below so you can just skip your way through. And not have to listen to all this. Maybe time, or even at all. Okay, what is proper breathing for singing? Well, shall we say traditional breathing for singing? Let me see if I can make it as clear as possible. My interpretation of it from that background which I've explained to you. Rib cage, lungs in the rib cage, in the pleural sac. Diaphragm, you saw that picture? Shall I show it to you again? You saw that picture? Let me refresh your memory. What I mean by that is, it flattens. It contracts, it's a muscle, and it flattens. Pushes your intestines, your viscera, out of the way. The lungs, which are above it, get drawn down, and air rushes in to fill the partial vacuum that you created by that. I liken it to a bicycle pump, which we're going to mention later. This way up, funny way to hold it, I know, it's quite a large one, and I pull the handle down with the plunger inside and air is drawn in. Simple. When that happens, this displacement here simply pushes everything out of the way, and that's the end of it. It's as simple as that, really. When the diaphragm flattens, look, everywhere that's underneath the diaphragm and is soft, even a little bit at the back. Hopefully you can see that. There's another little added bit, which is the ribs here are capable of swinging out a bit. So, not only do you get the pump coming down, as it comes down towards the end of that, can you believe it, but this magical bicycle pump, the barrel, does that a bit, sucks a bit more air in, so you get on the way out. What seems to happen naturally is that this bit stays out, the pump goes up, so now the plunger's got the crease diameter as well. And then towards the very end, simple enough. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal, it seems to me. The issue. People tend to hold their stomachs tight. What does that mean? Any anxiety tends to go there. This tends to get hold. We're always told to stand like this, stomach in. So people perhaps don't like the curve there, or whatever it is. For whatever reason, this tends to get held. What that means then is that the diaphragm can't move stuff out of the way to descend. So what happens? I'll tell you what happens, it seems to me. This stays put. In fact, it even can go the other way. I can even pull this in whilst... See that? Back to front. The way is recommended. And maybe you can hear already, I know I'm making noises and stuff so you can hear, but maybe you can hear already when I do that, there's somehow much less effort about it. Let me finish this off then. The more you can release and allow, even right down to the pelvic floor, the more air you can get in. Let me show you the complete thing then, really, if I can. I'm going to make a noise, which you wouldn't do, of course, but otherwise you won't hear what's going on. Use my hands to demonstrate at the same time. back to neutral. That was a complete cycle. Feels like it's going down there, right down here, and then this comes out, and then I start with this, poof, strong, and then that, like a tube of toothpaste, because I'm squeezing down there, tends to keep this out anyway. So it's not too much thinking, remember. This intellectualize it. Is that a word? Notice the intelligence of the body, knows what it's doing. Work with it, is what I'm thinking. That's that. Got this. Oh, we got this. So, you can use either. Use both. And when I watch myself sometimes on video, I notice I go up here. I don't mind that a bit, because I'll tell you why later if I remember. Any advantage then? Well, you had a hint when you heard me do it, that this one down here didn't seem so labour intensive. So let's go back to our bicycle pump. It's made of gold. Gold. Yeah. It's quite heavy gold. So here it is, and here's the handle. I'm holding it in a funny old way, as you know, upright like that. There's a rubber pipe that goes off to my tyre. Now, my tyre doesn't care if I do this, or if I leave the handle clamped, I clamp the handle and lift the barrel. I exaggerated the movement there because you know why, what I'm coming to. The tyre says, I don't care. As long as I get the pressure and sufficient volume of air, I'm going to get to my 80 pounds per square inch or whatever it is I require. I don't care what you do. However you do it, doesn't bother me. However, when we're singing, we are bothered because we want to fly or ride with our larynx on the air. So if I've got pulses like that, which I don't want, it's going to make this not ride so very, very smoothly. Also, it's going to be difficult to balance up. If it's jerky, it's going to. So what we want for this, we want to be able to control the flow and the rate and have a nice, smooth, steady, very variable, of course, depends on what note and pitch and stuff you're doing and what you're doing up there. But you need to be able to, you can imagine trying to, that heavy barrel, because it's gold. So what happens then with the barrel? Here we've got this. You saw me do that. I was exaggerating. What's going to happen then if I lift this barrel up? Pump. So I'm going to get rid of my tyre now, so it's free. I lift my barrel up. What's going to happen as soon as I let go? Remember, it's gold. It's heavy. Yes, indeedy. It's going to come crashing down. Effort to lift it up. Going to come crashing down. Effort to lift it up. Comes crashing down. Effort to lift it up, as you heard in the in-breath. You might have noticed then when I was talking as well. Oh, something going on there. Yes, because it triggers, to me, a reflex for the larynx to want to close or to want to clamp, because something's got to stop the barrel crashing down. You know, your instinctual intelligence knows that. What it knows. What's going on if you do this, first thing that happens is that. So, how do you counteract that? Muscular effort. There, I'm keeping this lifted, but you can hear what's doing. It all goes up there a bit. Yeah, it all goes up there a bit. That's the computer. And I don't know what's going on there. Strange. And it's, who knows? You get this slight constriction, or you have to use some muscles. So it's quite effortful. It's quite useful if you need a blast, because you can, of course, that can come crashing down. Which I won't do. I might do some, turn that down and do it away from that. This then, when you breathe here, back to neutral. I'm going to breathe here again. Where's that tendency for this to come out? It's not there. When I need it, when I need it, when I need it, when I need it, when I need it. If I need that, if I need that, it's there. The equivalent of is our pump. Let me sort this out just for a second. I find it very irritating. Why are you doing that? Well, there we go. I decided the best thing to do was to shut it down. And now mowing the lawn outside. It doesn't matter. This then, pump. with a handle like that. Quick. This, not so quick. Let me just check. We're getting towards the end, don't you worry. That is the difference, it seems to me. The benefit of this is that it's quick, doesn't have that tendency to involve this. This one is slow and clumsy, and you've always got to do something with having lifted this because it's going to want to come crashing down again. So it tends to involve a little bit of strain here. May not be a big deal. Lots of people do it. And I don't know. But that's what it's about. As far as I can see, that's the difference. And I think I've explained. Go and see my first videos on their exercises. So let me get on to that, their exercise. Bear in mind, there are two types of different exercises. Exercises for this, where you're holding back the air using the muscles. Make sure you don't do it with this, because when you sing, this is going to be open. So don't do anything that you can't do when you sing unless you know why you're doing that. So don't cheat. We tend to cheat ourselves. It's no good. Fool ourselves. So there's that for extended breath, and then there's these for dynamic breath that you might need for when you suddenly need a high note. When you suddenly need a high note or you need an accent in there, there's these accented exercises. Go to neutral. So whenever I'm in between, about to take a breath or in between things, I'm in neutral, and I'm very clear where that neutral is. So I'm not holding any tension just because I want to do the exercise. I do this to students sometimes. And I say, what do you mean? Do you want money from me? I said, no. What I want is for you to get value for money, or more correctly, really, in this instance, value for your time. And they say time is money. Well, but in other words, if you're going to make yourself practice, you're going to go, I don't feel like it. I want to go, all right, I'm going to do 5. I'm going to do 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm going to do 15 minutes practice. When you get there, pay attention, know what the exercise is about, get into it, so that at the end of it you think, that was 15 minutes of my time and I got good value. Rather than maybe, you're thinking about this and you're not really sure what the exercise is about, so you're just doing it. Then what's the point, really? What's the virtue of abdominal breathing? Well, controlled release, as I said, lack of tension in the throat, controlled duration, so speed, dynamics, a general upwards and outwards feel and sound. Yeah, I have noticed a bit, turn away from the mic again, that people who breathe here, there is a hint of this, but it doesn't matter, it depends what you want. There's a hint of this has more of a hint of I exaggerated there just to give you an idea. I have noticed that. Capacity. I reckon capacity is about the same. Some people say you breathe down here because you get more air. I haven't found that to be the case. I think you get just as much either way. It's just that this one, you're liable to lose some at the beginning because it wants to come crashing down. So you're liable to get... What happens is people have that at the beginning of the room, and then it settles down, and then they have to start crushing their chest to get the rest of it. And then they breathe in again, and then at the top because it all wants to come flying out. So you've got to then control it. And then when you control it, you know what's going to happen? You do that and control it a bit. And now I've gone a bit here constricted because I'm trying to control the air at the beginning. Whereas this one, you don't have that at the beginning, as I said before. When you need to kick it, it's there. When you need to kick it, it's there. And everything's much more relaxed and easier and more athletic, and I just prefer it. But when it comes to extremes, sometimes I feel you need both. So sometimes I feel if you're going for a real note, you need kind of... So I find this goes first, and I've noticed myself on a video doing it. And then this goes, and even a little, this comes up a bit as well. And then... off, everything goes down. That's when for extremes. So I've noticed that happening naturally, and I'm inclined to trust a natural thing. Does say here, but what is natural? Well, I don't think being tight here and lifting this is natural. I think that's habitual. So I think the natural, when I watched my cat when he was alive, rest in peace, it breathed here. My friend's pets, animals I see, tend to breathe here. So I think that's natural, but we've lost it. So I say trust in what's natural, but when it comes to that extreme thing, it seems to me, from my experience, the natural is this, followed by absolutely everything else, and then See what you think. Don't fool yourself. Feel rather than think. Thinking or imagination, I say here, just me, is only a portal to feeling. So when I give you that image of the golden bicycle pump and these various images that we use, they're a portal to you feeling, not to stay in the imagination or the thought, because that's no use to you. You have to feel it. It has to be in the body. So thinking or imagination is only a portal to feeling, which is a portal, with practice, to muscle memory, because that's what you want. You do the thinking and then you do the feeling, and oh yeah, you get familiar with the feeling, and then you want to be able to just have it in muscle memory, which is a pathway to freedom. Yes, sir. That's been my experience as far as I've got. I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything. I do say here, I am neuroplasticized. I'm not sure if that's a word, but I'm going to use it. I'm neuroplasticized. I'm no longer who I once was. So what that means is, from repetition, it starts to get taken care of. The brain actually rewires physically, so they say. That's how people with strokes who've had damage to some part of their brain, with the right person, if they're lucky, and they've got the intention, and the person that will bring that intention to fruition, that intention causes the brain to rewire. And so people who do things and practice, snooker players, whatever it is, the brain rewires, and then it takes care of it. And then you're free to do your thing. You're free to just step out there. You do your warm-up or whatever, and you look at your audience and you breathe and you just do your thing, and you don't have to think about it. It's taken care of. So that's the aim, it seems to me, come the end of it. That's what we're practicing for. Okay, I know it's been long. It's been long for me too. I'm going to do some editing. I hope that it's of use. I hope it's cleared up to some extent, if not completely, the great confusion. See you next time.